wabarakatuh. Hello guys. So this is our fourth meeting, and our topic is about narrative and case study. I hope you will enjoy this topic. I hope so. So, what is narrative research? Besides history and literature, the natural realm of narrative, many research fields have been using stories to investigate reality construction or reconstruction. We have already quoted Brunner in education and Labov and Walensky in linguistics, to mention only two examples of fields which are close to applied linguistics. But reference to narrative research can be found in semiotics, medicine, nursing, psychology, psychoanalysis, communication, sociology, information technology, anthropology, philosophy, gay studies, oh my god, gay studies, women's studies, and so on. Just use any web search engine and you will find on the internet references to narrative research in many different areas. So, Clendenin and Connolly in 2000 defined narrative research as a way of understanding experience involving collaboration between researcher and participants over time in a place of series of places and in social interaction with the milieus. The most common narrative research can be described as a methodology which consists of gathering stories about a certain theme where the researcher will find out information about the specific phenomenon. In order to collect the data, several techniques can be used. Interviews, journals, autobiographies, oral recording, written narratives, and field notes. Another form of research is what Polkinghorne 1995 said. First, describe as a kind of inquiry which gathers events and happenings as its data and use narrative analysis procedure to produce explanatory stories. Summing up, narrative inquiry embraces narrative as both the method and phenomena of study. In other words, analysis of narratives and narrative analysis in this volume, the majority of chapters focus on the analysis of narratives, but articles by Fian Jr. and 4 by Vassallo and Telles are good examples of narrative research. And then describing the lives of individuals, collecting and telling stories about people's life, and writing narrative of individual experiences. This is based on Connolly and Clendenin in 1990. Concerning on studying a single person, gathering data through the collection of stories, reporting the individual's experiences, and discussing the meaning of those experiences for the individual. And this is of types of narrative research design. Actually, I already told you it just a moment before. It's just like example of types of narrative research forms, just like autobiographies, bibliographies, life writing, personal accounts, personal narratives, narratives interviews, personal documents of life, life stories and life histories, oral histories, ethno-histories, ethnobiographies, auto-ethnographies, ethnopsycholinguists, person-centered ethnographies, popular memories, Latin America, testimonial, and police memoirs. Major characteristics of narrative research. This is based on individual experiences, chronology of experiences, collecting individual stories, restoring coding for themes, context or setting, and collaborating with participants. Narrative researchers are always confronted with the question concerning whether the narrator is telling the truth. This question inevitably leads us to another question. Does really exist or is it constructed? Based on Reisman in 1993, he said that investigators do not have direct access to another experience. We deal with ambiguous representation of it, talk, text, interaction, and interpretation, and it is not possible to be neutral and objective. And next, narrative research used to tell and report someone's story, and the story follow a chronology. It's just like concerning or studying a single person, gathering data through the collection of stories, reporting individual experiences, discussing the meaning of those experiences for the individual. Type of narrative design is important for researchers, but for the reader, most important to recognize the essential characteristic of the type. The example of type, I already told you about this one. Let's skip it. And then some potential issues in gathering stories. First, cautious about stories. Second, ownership of the story. Third, loss of participants' voice in the final narrative report. And the last is gains of the researcher in the study at the expense of the participant. I think it's enough for the first part and fourth meeting. I'm going to continue it in the second part. Okay, just wait and see. Hi again, guys. So this is our second part of the fourth session. I'm going to continue to the steps in conducting narrative research. First, you have to identify a phenomenon to explore that addresses is an educational problem. And then second, purposefully select an individual from whom you can learn about the phenomenon. And then third, collect the story from that individual. Now, fourth, restore or retell the individual story. Fifth, collaborate with the participant storyteller. And then sixth, write a story about the participants' experiences. And then seven, validate the accuracy of the report. So, okay, this is I'm gonna show you in a table about the step in conducting narrative research. So this is the first step. You can see below. Identify the phenomenon to explore that addresses an educational problem, and then let's move to the step 2. It's about purposefully select an individual from whom you can learn about the phenomenon. And then step 3, collect stories from that individual that reflects personal and social experiences. It means that you have them tell the story and then collect other field text, something like that, and then move to step 4. Step 4 have 4 parts. It's just like built in past, present, and future, built in place or setting, so the time, the place, and describe their story and analyze their story on themes. And then move on to the step 5 is about collaborate with the participant storyteller in all phase of research. And 6, write a story about the participants' personal and social experiences. And the last one, which is step 7, is validate the accuracy of the report. Let's move on to the next part. Where is the next part? Okay. For the evaluating of the narrative research, you can find just like you can make 5 questions just like this. The researcher focus on individual experiences, or is there a focus on a single individual or a few individuals? So you can choose one individual or more than one, something like that. And then did the researcher collect the story of an individual's experience? Or did the researcher restory the participant story? And the last, in the restoring, was the participant's voice as well as the researcher's voice heard? Oh, I still have 5 more. Did the researcher identify themes that emerged from the story? And did the story include information about place or setting of the individual? Did the story have a temporal, chronological sequence including the past, present, and future? Is there an evidence that the researcher collaborate with the participant? And the last one is, does the story adequately address the purpose and the question of the researchers? Those 10 points is just to evaluate the narrative research. Okay, let's move on to case study. Case studies are also used for requiring an extensive and a deep description of some social phenomenon. Investigates a contemporary phenomenon, the case, in depth and within its real-world context. How or why question, that would be the rationale for the case study that you might conduct. And then the use of case study is of growing interest for agricultural economists. They are aware of case study because their colleges teaching agribusiness management have been using them for many years, but they are primarily interested in them as a fresh research methodology that might let them explore problems which they have not been able to address very well with their traditional methodologies. So moving beyond awareness of the case, to use the case method requires a deeper understanding of it. Hold on. This is the example of a research article. You can see it yourself. Retelling, a narrative inquiry of Indonesian graduate students. The narrative inquiry of Indonesian graduate students speaking experiences in a United Kingdom university. as far as you know, you already know about how to make an abstract in a journal, right? So this is the abstract, you can see it yourself. I'm not gonna read it for you because it's too long and we don't have plenty time to explain more about this one. It's just the example, okay? Okay. So what is actually the definition of case study? A case study is a holistic inquiry that investigates a contemporary phenomenon within its natural settings, so specifying particular terms in a greater detail. The phenomenon can be many different things: a program, an event, an activity, a problem, or an individual. The natural setting is the context within which this phenomenon appears. Context is included because contextual conditions are considered highly pertinent to the phenomenon being studied, either because many factors in the setting impinge on the phenomenon or because the separation between the phenomenon and the context is not clearly evident. And then the next point, the phenomenon and setting are a bound system. There are limits on what is considered relevant or workable, and the boundaries are set in terms of times, place, events, and process. Holistic inquiry involves collection of in-depth and detailed. There are rich in data, in content, and involve multiple sources of information, including direct observation, participant observation, interviews, audio-visual materials, document, reports, and physical artifacts. The multiple sources of information provide the wide array of information needed to provide an in-depth picture. I think that's all. See you on the next meeting. Dadah.